Welcome to a Spiritual World podcast, a space where we explore the vastness within and around us, a place to remember that you are a spiritual world within a spiritual world, the mind within the mind of the all. Here, we journey beyond programming, past the pain, and into the true essence of our sovereignty. My name is Toria, and my sole mission is for you to find the guru within and remember yourself as the creatrix of your world, embodying the power within you to build a life you love. As always, you're encouraged to go back to episode 1 for the full disclaimers on the terminology of mystic psychology. I am not a medical professional, and nothing shared in this podcast is intended to replace professional medical or mental health care. The term mystic psychology is not used in a clinical or medical context and has no connection to the medical field or industry. It is a spiritual and energetic framework rooted in the ancient wisdom and sciences of Hermeticism, intended to support self-exploration and inner awakening. If you are seeking medical advice, diagnoses, or treatment, please consult a licensed medical or mental health professional. Everything shared here is based on my own personal lived experiences and energetic perspectives, offered in the spirit of empowerment and remembrance. Please take what you need and leave the rest. I am honored to walk beside you as a channel, a guide, and a fellow traveler as we continue on this path together. Welcome back to a Spiritual World podcast, spiritual ones. And I had an impromptu break, apparently, over the past month. However, I am back better than ever, ready to go, and ready to move forward. So, in our last gathering, we built a bridge between Christianity and Hermeticism, discovering that what looked like two separate rivers were, in fact, just two angles of the same ancient current. And today, we're going to journey upstream to the wellspring from which so much mysticism flows. Judaism, my friends, the root of the Western esoteric tree. And as always, our benevolent companions, the mantis beings, walk with us as quiet witnesses, the keepers of geometry, and interpreters of divine sound. They remind us that Judaism and Hermeticism are not isolated traditions. They are mirrors facing one another, infinite reflections of the same origin story. The universe is mental, and creation is speech. The first Hermetic principle says, "The all is mind, the universe is mental." Judaism opens with, "And God said, let there be light, and there was light." These two teachings express an identical truth through different languages, as well as the different correspondence of existence, right? The language is ultimately the same. It's just the different stages in the language that make creation possible, right? These are the steps, step 1 and step 2. Creation begins not with hands or matter, and with vibration, with breath shaped into sound, sound shaped into light, and light shaped into form. In Hebrew, the phrase Vayomor Elohim, meaning "and God said," is not merely poetic. It is metaphysics. It is the recognition that sound shapes reality, that intention carried through vibration becomes the architecture of existence. Hermeticism calls this the logos. Judaism calls it davar. Both describe the same creative mechanics, and both are a part, an integral part of those creative mechanics. Your words, your thoughts, your inner voice all participate in creation. And the mantis beings are anchoring in and have a few words to speak. Creation is a conversation between silence and sound. You are both speaker and listener. When you remember this, your words regain their wings. Thank you, mantis beings. And so when we really sit with this, we begin to notice the pattern that repeats through so many sacred traditions, including today's episode, Hermeticism and Judaism. We constantly come back to the emergence of a trinity. Even in this season of a Spiritual World podcast, I'm constantly bringing it back to a trinity with Hermeticism, the paralleling dialect, and then the mantis frequency to encompass it into the three equaling one and so much more. Now, there is this silence that we all know or are seeking to know and should really want to become comfortable with. This silence is the infinite potential before anything moves. Then there is sound. Sound, we are probably all too familiar with on some level. However, this sound is the type that we are trying to auto-tune into to listen to. And when I say that, I mean we are deprogramming to forget all of the sound and the noise around us, so we can then listen for and understand our own sounds and the sounds around us. The sounds that are intention, the sound of the breath, the sound of vibration that shapes all potential. And then that trinity, there is the space between them that exists. The moment of alchemy, the spark, the fusion point where silence and sound meet to become pure manifestation. Silence, sound, and synthesis. Potential, vibration, and embodiment. The womb, the word, and the world. This trinity appears over and over and over again because it is the architecture of creation itself. It mirrors the Kabbalistic descent of the worlds and the Hermetic ascent of the planes, and it mirrors your own internal process each time you create, each time you speak, each time you dare to imagine, each time that you bring something new into existence. It is the divine mind dreaming, the divine breath moving, and the divine form appearing. A trinity not of division, and instead of integration, 3 movements of the same conscious field, 3 faces of the one, 3 steps of every birth in this universe. So from here, we move into the ancient diagrams of creation, the places where Judaism and Hermeticism overlap in remarkable precision. The Hermetic Emerald Tablet says, "That which is above is like that which is below." The Kabbalistic Tree of Life illustrates this visually. 10 emanations, the Sephirot, cascading from the infinite into the physical world. This is the same descent described in Hermetic cosmology. Spirit becoming mind, mind becoming energy, and energy crystallizing into matter. Judaism expresses these layers as Atzulith, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, while Hermeticism expresses them as the spiritual, the mental, the energetic, and the physical planes. They are 2 maps describing the very same landscape. And I hear the mantis beings whispering again. Let's anchor them in. For they say, in this time, creation descends in 4 breaths. The human rises in 4 steps. What you call the worlds are gradients of remembering. Whew. That one kind of takes my breath away because that has so much reverence in it. And just kind of makes my chest flutter. Because I also am hearing it, just as you are. And for me, it means I want to deep dive into this later. Because this is something extremely deep. So thank you, Mantis Frequency. Thank you. And as we move forward in this remembering, everything becomes even more profound when we step into the Hebrew language, not as a set of words, instead as a set of vibrational technology. If we start looking at words in an over-encompassing effort as technology, how transformative would that be? However, being someone that has studied the Hebrew language and worked with it on the 22 pathways of healing in the body and other elements, Hebrew is one of the original frequency alphabets. Each letter is not simply symbolic. It is a geometry of consciousness, a specific pattern of vibration, a living, building block of reality. And this is very similar to Sanskrit and the last proto-languages that humanity once spoke before consciousness fractured in the story symbolized by Babel. When Hebrew is spoken, the breath, throat, and tongue function as instruments of light. The Kabbalists teach that God did not create with words. God created with letters. 22 vibrational chords, each shaping the scaffolding of existence. Hermeticism calls this the principle of vibration. Judaism calls it the sacred Aleph-Bet. And the mantis beings confirm by saying the sacred languages are not inventions. They were received. They are geometries, not dialects. They rearrange consciousness each time they are spoken. And so from language, we rise again into the Merkava, the chariot body of Jewish mysticism. This is not a vehicle. Instead, it's a frequency, a crystalline configuration of the soul. It mirrors the Hermetic philosopher's stone, the perfected self, the light body that awakens when the mind, the heart, and the will come into coherence. Hermeticism focuses on transforming the dense into the divine. And Kabbalah focuses on lifting the divine into the dense. Remember how I said that these are more like steps? That's how they're paralleling to each other? Both, however, describe the same ascent. They both have the same beginning and end game. And the mantis beings anchoring in here state, the Merkava is not built, it is remembered. When the mind is silent, the geometry awakens. I love that. It's almost like the geometry exists or starts to be perceived in that connection point, the connection point between silence and sound. And so now, spiritual ones, we arrive at the heart of today's journey. The moment the one becomes two while still remaining one. Hermeticism calls this the division of the divine androgyny, the emergence of polarity, the birth of the masculine and feminine principles. Judaism describes this moment through Tzimtzum, the infinite contracting into itself to form a point of tension, a seed of creation, and then releasing a spark of light. In that first spark, light appears, shadow appears, masculine and feminine appear, not as separate beings, but as complementary poles of one consciousness. This is where your remembering becomes essential. And this is also where I spoke previously on another episode about the vision of that first spark of creation. That first spark of creation was the moment that the masculine recognized the feminine and fell in love. Not necessarily romantically, but cosmically. This love was recognition. It was reflection as well as resonance. Creation is born through polarity, and polarity is born through mutual awareness. Judaism mirrors this within the first human, Adam Kadmon, an androgynous being containing both masculine and feminine. It's only later that polarity expresses outwardly, revealing the dynamics of creation within the structure of humanity. In this is where the parallels between Hermeticism and Judaism become undeniable. Both traditions teach that polarity is not a flaw, or a fall, or a fail. It is a design. It is the way that the infinite expresses, the way that creation unfolds, and the way consciousness learns to recognize itself through contrast. In Hermeticism, this appears as the law of gender, a reminder that every act of creation requires two complementary currents: the spark and the vessel, the breath and the receiver, the intention and the space that holds it. Judaism expresses this same truth through chokmah and binah, wisdom and understanding, impulse and expansion, the masculine and feminine forces that animate the tree of life. There is a reason why chokmah and binah are right under Keter. And Keter is the crown of the tree of life. All of these perspectives are just different dialects, even of the same language. We can say that they're different languages. However, the reality is that we're all talking about the same thing, the same cosmic architecture. And when we step back and view these teachings side by side, we see that both are describing a universe built on relationship. A universe where the one moves through two so that consciousness can witness itself from infinite angles. This is why the mantis beings often remind us polarity is an invitation, not a separation. It is how the one learns its own depth through the dance of dual expression. And we can sense this reflected in the earliest human stories. Stories of unity, stories of division, stories of the human form learning to embody the balance of masculine and feminine energies. These narratives hint at deeper layers that we will definitely explore in future transmissions. And for now, they serve as reminders that the human journey mirrors the divine journey. A movement from unity into polarity and back into unity once again. This is the essence of Hermeticism. The up and down of vibration, experiences in those vibrations, and transmutation. And this is also the essence of Jewish mysticism, climbing up and down the Sephiroth, the tree of life. And this is the essence of creation itself. The divine begins as silence, also known as the void, and breathes into sound, the primordial Om that we've talked about in previous episodes. And it shapes that sound into form. The infinite descends through worlds, and the human rises through them in remembrance. Hermeticism gives us the laws, the principles, because we all know that I'm not a big fan of the laws, the principles that govern this process. And Judaism gives us the maps that illustrate it. Together, they reveal a universe that is mental, a universe that is vibrational, a universe that is relational, and endlessly creative. And you, being the creatrix that you are, or the creator that you are part of that architecture. You are the breath becoming the light. You are the sound becoming the form. You are the expression of the one, moving through the dance of two, on your way back to remembering yourself as the one again. This is the light within the letters. This is the thread that binds Hermeticism and Judaism. And this, my friends, is the remembrance that we are meant to carry forward into the magnificent times that we are headed. So, with that is today's episode on Hermeticism and Judaism. I'm not quite sure when it's going to happen. Normally, probably maybe around the Lunar New Year, we'll be pivoting into season 3. I obviously am not going to get to every single spiritual teaching paralleling Hermetics. Maybe we'll circle back to some down the road as they arise. However, the calling for mystic psychology is undeniable, and my heart beats so strong for it that it's time that I step into another level of my own existence and my own dharma. However, with this episode, there is a bonus. And it's really, really interesting because when I was writing this episode, androgyny came up, which brought back all of the visions and the understanding of being androgynous beings. And while Judaism talks about androgyny from Adam Kadmon, I want to discuss androgyny from the perspective of being one being before being split into the human creatures that we are now. There was a very vivid image of understanding that we were once androgynous in the concept of potentially having 4 arms, 4 legs, 2 heads. And, we went to war with the gods because we were feared to be stronger. And so then we were split, right? That myth contours it as punishment. However, I want to bring it to you in a whole nother way, a way that I'm really excited about, and that will be in the bonus episode. So that will be out shortly, and yeah, I'm excited. Hope you guys are too. As always, it's an honor and a blessing to be listened to and to connect. So I wish you the best, and namaste, and many blessings on your way until we meet again.